instead be able to put forward a policy which is about workers' rights, which is about ending zero-hours contracts, which is about the right to join a trade union and be represented by a trade union, the right of workers in industries to have collective bargaining agreements across the whole industry, and a wages inspection system that is worthy of the name to make sure any company trying to cheat workers by paying them less than the minimum wage or any other kind of scam they get up to, so that those companies are taken to book for it and those workers have rights, not fear, in order to speak up. How many times have many of us met people who are living on a very low wage, working in often very bad and quite dangerous conditions, who have zero-hours contracts, sometimes even less than the minimum wage, or in some cases Eastern European workers who find their wages top sliced to pay for so-called accommodation and things like that. All of that is exploitation of workers. All of those people need to be confident and strong enough to feel they're able to speak up, join the trade union and be represented by a trade union. We need a positive right to be represented in the workplace, not the kind of hurdles that the government is now putting in the way of trade union organisation. I think it's a human right to join a trade union. I think the International Labour Organisation conventions are very important and should be observed. I think that we'll start with on Monday, when we have to oppose the trade union reform bill in Parliament, and I'll be making sure that all those points are made in the debate on Monday, and above all, in the campaign to defeat this piece of legislation. So even people who are not in trade unions should recognise the value of unions for all of us in our entire society. That are in our campaign, and the primary one is about the way our economy runs in our society. At the moment, we have a period of even deeper inequality in living standards in Britain, and we're still paying the price for the deindustrialisation of the Conservatives under Margaret Thatcher in the early 1980s, with the loss of heavy industry, the loss of many manufacturing jobs, the promotion of a service-led economy. 80% of people work in the service sector in Britain, far higher than most other countries in Europe. One of the suggestions we put forward, and all our policy ideas are suggestions, is that we have a national investment bank which would be tasked with investing in crucial infrastructure in our society, rail infrastructure, housing, I'll come back to housing in a moment, education, and investing also in advanced technology engineering companies and investing in growing the manufacturing sector and growing the innovative sector within our society. If we don't do that, then we leave it all to the free market. It won't develop our manufacturing basis, it won't use the skill levels we've got in our society, it will actually lead probably in the long run to further job losses. That can be funded in a period of flatlining or recession by using quantitative easing in order to get the economy going, or it can be used by the sale of government bonds in order to pay for that investment. Investment means the economy grows, investment means that people get decent housing, investment means more people get more jobs as a result of it. It isn't actually wildly extreme or wildly outrageous, anything that we put forward in that economic paper. If we were making this contribution in Germany, people would say, well, that's depressingly obvious and normal. We've been doing it for years, which is why we have a much stronger economy than you do, because they've been not afraid and frightened of public investment to ensure a growing economy. But there are other issues that have to be addressed as well, and that is the legacy of the private finance initiative, which was introduced by the last government and continued by this one, where new hospitals and new schools were all funded by private finance initiative, and it's about as sensible as buying a house on a credit card, actually. In fact, it's probably even worse than that. We're paying 6 times over for capital assets that often the public don't end up owning by private finance initiative. I think it was a huge mistake, very damaging to the costs of services, and every hospital that's been built by PFI now finds that PFI comes calling first whenever any bills have to be paid. And so when people say to me, well, your proposals are very complicated and simply wouldn't work, Their alternative of private finance, that has been proved absolutely not to work. If we want to grow the economy, we want to grow our way into prosperity, they have to invest to do it, and that's why we've put forward this National Investment Bank idea. And we're going to close down the tax loopholes and come after those people that are putting money more and more into tax havens all over Europe. Other areas I just want to share some thoughts with you on, and the first one is the health service. Everyone in this room uses the National Health Service. Everyone in this room's health is dependent on the success of our National Health Service, the efficiency of it, and the incredible hard work that's done by people in the NHS. And it's the proudest achievement of the Labour movement that it was ever established. During a period of unbelievable economic problems in the 1940s, and Aaron Bevan managed to persuade the then government to allow him to set up the National Health Service. Health care as a human right free at the point of use. And in Bevan House in Tredegar, there's a message on the wall, and it says, it's from Nye, it says, how can a society call itself civilised if it denies health care to somebody who cannot afford to pay the price of seeing a doctor? He was right then, he was right now. Is under threat. It's under threat because of the the Health and Social Care Bill, which requires that 49% of services are run by the private sector. It's at risk because of the internal market within the NHS, which means that many competing companies, private sector companies, are making a great deal of money out of the NHS at the expense of all of us. I want us to end the internal market in the NHS, repeal the Health and Social Care Act, and ensure that we have an NHS with public employees accountable to the public, and not all these huge profits being sucked out of the NHS by the private health system. Some of this also comes down to public attitudes, because alongside the casualty units, A&E departments, and all the other services that we value and revere within the NHS, there is also the underfunding and still, sadly, in some sections of our society, a stigma associated with those that are going through mental health conditions and mental health crises. Properly fund the mental health services within our society, but also recognise the causes of mental health are stress, sometimes, unemployment, poverty, bad housing, all kinds of things lead to those levels of stress, all those things lead to various levels of insecurity. But above all, also recognise that when people are supported with talking therapies, sometimes with drug therapies, to get through those crises, they can come back and contribute to society in a normal way. We still have a stigma surrounding mental health in our society. I long for the day when we become civilised as one Scandinavian country whose Prime Minister suffered serious levels of stress and was given 6 months leave of absence to recover and came back and continued to be Prime Minister. Would that happen in Britain?